All right, we're live in the pits of metal motor chaos. It's yours, Dave. I got a line special guest, East Coast Thrashers, Toxik. How you going, guys?
Oh, what's up, man? Hello.
So how you guys doing tonight?
Ron, hello. Sorry. Yeah, don't get excited. Sorry for the outburst. How are you, Dave?
I'm good, man. So you guys excited to come to the Blades of Steel Festival in Milwaukee next year?
Oh, yes. Yeah, man. Yes. April 10th, baby.
Now, are you guys gonna have a special set list for that show?
We are. To be announced. Yeah, we're gonna do all of Think This. It's the 30th anniversary, so that's what we're taking out. Yeah, that's right. That still falls within the year. It does too. So yeah, it'll be Think This set. So we're about to take that on the road to Europe in about 3 weeks now.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Now, think this was your that came out in 1989, right?
Actually, you were at the King Diamond show in Chicago. We were supporting that record on that tour.
So now, are you guys gonna be working on any new material anytime soon?
Well, I guess I'll speak up. We have a lot of material. Actually, we've put out 3 EPs over the last 4 years. And actually, Kinetic Closure, which was the last one we did, which was part of a box set, was a full record where we introduced 2 new songs and played 8 classic tracks, 4 from each record, with Ron singing. Ron Iglesias, who's in now with the interview, who's the singer now with Toxik. So that was sort of his introduction. But between the 2 EPs and Kinetic Closure, we've already released probably close to 10 new songs over the last few years. It just doesn't seem like it because they've been coming out on EPs. But we do have an entire record in the can as well that we're trying to figure out how to get it out to everybody. We really would like to get signed and put it out, properly. But if it needs to be homegrown, which it might, I don't think we're opposed to doing that either. So there is another record in the works. When exactly, I'm not sure, but it's coming. Like Christmas.
Maybe you guys can get signed on to David Elvison's Combat Records.
Pastor Dave. That would be interesting. Actually, cool. Yeah. Yep. And my friend they're doing a show tonight. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Ripper Owens, KK Downing, Les Binks, drummer from Unleashed in the East. Yeah. And I forget who's playing bass. Somebody else is playing bass. It's pretty cool. They're doing a one-off show in Europe tonight. Actually, my friend flew over there for it. He's bringing me back a Les Binks autograph on my copy of Unleashed in the East. Wow. So, yeah, how cool is that, right? Don't turn it back, dude. I'll fucking steal it. How cool is that, Jim? I thought of you right away. So taking that record tonight, listening to "Victim of Change" is from Sad Wings. Very different. Very different. Yeah. I like the live version better. Oh, way better. That's my favorite Priest record by far.
Les played on Same Class, right?
I think. Listen to Destiny.
No, but Les Binks was also on Same Class.
Right? Oh, yes, he was. Yep, yes, he was. Right up until Unleashed. Yep.
Yeah, because he was awesome on that album. I love that album.
Yeah, Les Binks is freaking god, man. Way ahead of him. Way ahead.
Oh, yeah, man. Double bass stuff in the 70s.
Yep. Awesome. You think of songs like Tyrant, 1975?
Yeah.
1977? You know what I mean? It's like, wow, way ahead.
For real. Damn, I forgot about that song. That's a good one.
Welcome to Metal History class, ladies and gentlemen.
So Josh, hey Josh.
Go, brother. Yes, sir.
How about a metal history of Toxik? What year did you actually start this band?
Toxik went through a couple of different iterations before it actually became Toxik, but officially Toxik started in 1985.
Now, did you come up with the name of the
Under
band?
the name Tokyo, right, Josh?
What was that?
Did you come up with the name Toxik?
I actually did. Toxik was my name. I grew up real close to a nuclear reactor, a nuclear plant called Indian Point, which Jim still lives near. And, we were, because of where we're from, we're very aware that, that power plant was a big stink back in the 70s and 80s when I was a kid. And so there were all these like radioactivity stickers all over, like everywhere. They were plastered on phone poles, and just everywhere you looked, you saw the little radiation sign. And a lot of it just sort of felt like a natural for our area. It seemed like a perfect name, and at the time we didn't think anything of it. It ended up really being a good one. It's a stock. Between the logo and the name, I think it's a large part of why we are still relevant as much as we are. I think that logo being on battle jackets than the albums themselves.
So Josh, at what age did you start playing guitar?
I'm sorry?
At what age did you start playing guitar?
Actually, my dad got me a guitar when I was 6 years old, and I learned my first song was Froggy Went a Courtin'. and then it expanded from there. My dad was my mom and dad were artsy folks, and they had a lot of musician friends. And once I showed an interest in music, all of a sudden everybody donated an instrument. Pretty soon the house had drums and pianos and the trumpet. I just had a house full of instruments growing up, so I play a little bit of everything, actually. I got serious on guitar around 17 years old. 16, 17 years old is when I got serious about it. So I put down all the other stuff and said, this is what I'm going to do.
So did you take lessons or were you self-taught?
I was self-taught up until that point, and then I took lessons with a guy named Lou Ubriaco, who was pretty well known, again, in my area where I grew up. He was very influenced by Yngwie Malmsteen and Rishi Blackmore, and so he handed that first record, the World Circus album. If you listen to the solos, a lot of them are very classically influenced. That was my guitar teacher influencing me on those songs. By the time we get to Think This, I'm actually at that point studying with other people, and I'm starting to learn jazz theory and harmony and other things, and that's why I think this was such a kind of a leap in terms of the composition, the writing from the first record. But so I was self-taught until I started studying, which within a year of studying, we were signed. So it's kind of all happened at the same time.
Now, who writes all the lyrics for the band?
Lyric writing has always been kind of, I am sort of the progenitor for Toxik. I start things, I start fires, and other people come and add to them. If you look at the credits, the lyrics is the one thing that I kind of have always shared with the band. That's just the way it's worked. So I'm the primary lyric writer, but Tad shows up, Lee, the first bass player, shows up. Mike, the singer, Charlie from Think This had a lot of influence on lyrics. He always wrote, like you asked, I think there was a question about Stand Up earlier. Shane said something about the song Stand Up. Charlie wrote probably half the lyrics on that song. He and I wrote that together.
Yeah, that's off our last original release, the Breaking Class EP.
Yes.
From 2017.
Yeah, great lyrics and psyop on that EP as well.
Totally.
A lot. Charlie was heavy influence on that song too. Charlie wrote a lot on that record, lyrically.
So how many bands did you play in prior to starting up Toxik, Josh?
Again, I was pretty young when Toxik kicked off, Dave. So, I mean, realistically, other than high school jams and friends bands, I didn't do anything. Toxik was the first, and kind of my high school sweetheart, and has been ever since.
Awesome. Well, hey Jim.
Yo.
What's your history in music, man?
My history is I'm just lucky enough to hang around and play well enough to get some pretty cool gigs. I met Josh about 4 years ago through a mutual friend, and we did a crash course in brain surgery for 2 months, and then we went on tour in South America. So it's been like a baptism by fire with Toxik. It's been awesome. My favorite thing about Toxik, I guess, is just I probably played about 40 plus shows with the band, and I've only used one drum set twice. Same drum set. My drum set I played once in 2017 and once the other day. So that was the only 2 times. Otherwise, every other show's been on a different drum set. Prior to Toxik, I was playing with Generation Kill, which had Rob Duke from Exodus singing in it, and otherwise just local stuff, man. I played with Marauder for about 6 months back in 2010 and 11. So other than that, just local stuff and just jamming and trying to maintain.
Hammer. You sat in with Demolition Hammer too. Jim.
Sat in with Demolition Hammer 2 years ago. Yeah,
and Whiplash.
I played with Whiplash as well.
The fucker's been all over the place.
Yeah.
Marauder. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did say Marauder.
Exactly. Oh, sorry. I missed that one.
Yeah, Marauder. Like, listen, man. We all were doing this stuff a long time ago, and then you would take time off to have families and stuff. Josh did kind of the same thing, and when I got back into it, I started out teching for Exodus because Dukes was the singer for Exodus. So then he got me on a tour teching for Tom Hunting, one of my heroes of all time. And then it just kind of parlayed it from there. Then I got with Shane, our bass player now. Shane's the singer in his band, Six Deep. Kelly hooked me up with Jorge from Marauder. Learned 10 songs in 12 days, and then played 2 gigs with those guys. And then I was with them for about 6 months, so it was pretty cool.
So, what age did you start playing the drums?
Me, late, man. I always played around with guitar originally, but then I really started to play drums about 18 years old. So old in the terms of trying to pick up an instrument, but whatever. I loved it. I met Eric Card at Beefsteak Charlie's in Nanuet, and he was like a big hero of mine. And I'm like, fuck it, and I'm going to buy a drum set. And I did.
That's a great story, Jim. I didn't know that. Also,
yeah, he used to date one of these girls that was in an all-girl thrash band called Hari Kari.
Oh, I remember them.
Elite, yeah. It was Mean Streak and Hari Kari. Mean Streak was definitely a way better band.
Cycle Sluts.
Cycle Sluts are from the city, yeah. But Mean Streak was a legitimate thrash band, female thrash band. They were fucking hard. And their drummer, Yael, plays now. She plays an Ugly Kid Joe. She's a monster player. Yeah. She was like, back then, she was like a female Tommy Lee. Yeah. Crushing.
Lee, where is she?
Yeah. Yeah, she's a crushing player, Yael.
Now, were you self-taught on drums, or did you take lessons, Jim?
I started out just playing myself and trying to play along to songs, and then I had a couple of teachers along the way. My first guy was a guy named John Devasta, whose technique was just impeccable, man. And I think I was more intimidated by his technique, than anything else. But once you get into bands, man, you just really try to play what you play music-wise, song-wise. So, you're taking lessons, and then you're playing more with your band, and then you're becoming your own kind of style. So, on and off lessons, nothing for like 5, 6, 7 straight years.
That's cool.
My priority, especially when I was younger, was playing music.
Awesome. Hey, Shane.
Yeah.
What's your musical background?
My parents started me on violin when I was like 3 years old. And I played basically until junior high school. I switched to saxophone then because I thought that was the coolest instrument. And then I got into high school and played in like every band there was. And I thought the bass player that was playing with us was the coolest dude, man. And I was like, man, I got to try that. So started, I think. And I've been with that ever since, obviously. I played in bands in high school, and then I played that. Jim had mentioned mentioned Six Deep, and that was kind of like the band where everything sprung off. So Six Deep was like this like metal band, kind of. It was like new metal, and kind of moved towards like
like more metalcore.
Yeah, more metalcore. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Towards metalcore, and everything kind of stemmed from that band. So I met Jim when I was in that band, and I had played after Six Deep. I met through that, like connections through that. I met a singer named Militia Vox, who I played in a band called Swear on Your Life, and that was kind of like the New York City scene. Did that for a long time. Then a band called Slam One Down, and that was again, kind of just like groove metal band. And we did shows with Generation Kill, and I had known Jim from years before, and we always got along well. And one day he calls me up and said, "Get to learn these songs, man. We're going to Europe. We got Toxik's got a tour, and you're the guy for it." So I pretty much locked myself in my place for about 6 months and learned World Circus, and here I am, and I'm still locked in my room pretty much now, finishing up Think This for the tour. So yeah, I think that brings us up to pretty much up to date.
Now, were you self-taught on bass, or did you take lessons?
I'm mostly self-taught. I first started, I was really influenced by kind of, just bassists who really stood out in bands. So, obviously Cliff Burton. I was a huge, and I'm still a huge Primus fan. Les Claypool, I was just like the craziest. It was like one of the craziest things I had ever heard, and I was a huge influence. Steve DiGiorgio, massive influence. Robert Trujillo. All these guys are fingerstyle players. I'm a fingerstyle player myself as well. Those are like, huge ones, right off the top of my head. I've got my technique now is more end whistle probably than anything. And I actually came to that later on, but it's an awesome influence as well. So yeah, so I had lessons along the way, but more or less self-taught, I would say.
That's awesome, man. So, Ron.
Yeah, thanks. Hello.
What?
Ronnie,
what's your musical background, brother?
Oh, man. That's a lot. I'll keep it short, though. Like Shane, I actually started on violin. I was much younger. Started taking...
Really? We never talked about this.
I guess we did know. Okay. Yeah. So, little note of that.
Me too, actually. I what the hell? Listening to you guys say that, it's like, really? Because I did too. I actually played violin and cello.
We have to do an all-violin Toxik set.
Yeah,
clearly.
I'll play viola. I can never make the violin really work.
I guess I'll grab a double bass or something.
That would be sick.
There you go.
Lick up.
Yeah. Beyond. I love it. But I did play violin for a number of years. Actually, kept up with it until college. I played piano too. Still kind of intermediate at that. Singing actually only came to me much later. That I actually took that serious. So that's the weird thing, because now here I am singing as a frontman and with stuff I've ever had to do in my life, but I love it. I love every minute that I get to sing it, work on it. It's made me much better. Yeah. No, for real. But, I'm kidding, sorry. But, yeah, and actually, my primary instrument is actually guitar. And I was in a number of bands, lots of cover bands and stuff. I actually took classical guitar in college. I studied music in college, so that definitely helped too. And for a while I was fronting and playing guitar for a band called Xenophile. We actually just recently broke up. And I guitar in a band called Paralysis too. So like I'm still doing the guitar thing, and I for a couple songs bring out the guitar on stage for Toxik. I gotta be honest, it's hard to try to coordinate singing and playing this stuff because it's definitely the most challenging stuff I've ever had to do. So, but I love it. So yeah, that's me.
Now, did you take any vocal lessons at all?
The only thing I can say is in college it was a requirement to do like a chorus like class and performances, and like they stuck me in the bass section, which is like the total opposite of Toxik, which is interesting. And actually, I feel like that's what made me want to strive more to try to do stuff that was, I guess, I was told was out of my range, because most teachers I had, in like, I guess the classical sense, they were like, well, no, you're born with a certain range, and that's it. I was like, wait, but now I can kind of do that other stuff. So that's as far as vocal training. Like, that's really it. Everything else was just sing along the songs, and then just picking up techniques along the way. Yeah, stuff like that. Other vocalists too, just asking them. You know, I know Mike pretty well too, and he always gave me a lot of really good tips. So just to throw that out there as well.
Mike Sanders, right?
Mike Sanders, yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
All right, cool. So what would you guys consider to be the pros and cons of the music business?
And again, I'm sorry, Dave.
I say, what would you guys consider to be the pros and the cons in the music business these days?
Go, somebody else. Go ahead, hit it.
Pros are you're still fortunate enough to be able to play shows and have a following because your band left a legacy. So you're fortunate enough to be out there. The cons are, it's expensive to tour. It's hard if you're trying to tour big areas and you don't have a bus. I mean, nobody's young anymore, so it's cons are it's hard to make ends meet just as a musician. The pros are, some things feed your family, some things feed your soul, for lack of a better term.
Agree with that. I think like the pros are the decentralization of music, where there are a lot less gatekeepers, but at the same time, I can't totally say it because there are kind of new gatekeepers in a certain way too. You have the old label structure was in the heyday and all that was one way, but now you can technically be any YouTuber can be a huge star or anything, but it's also I think Lady Gaga or something had like 10 million Spotify plays and she got like $1,000 for or something. Yeah. So there's the whole thing, like there's kind of like a stigma now of or a cliche I should say, of like rock and roll bands being traveling t-shirt salesmen. Yeah, because the money is made in touring and being out on the road. But it's a blessing and a curse because I guess it's definitely sort of harder and budgets are much tighter, but at the same time it's like I think like especially in Europe, festivals and things like that are people really are really into that, and it gives like bands like us really like an opportunity to travel and play to people who really love the stuff. This stuff like the Toxik shows I've played. People have come up to me, and obviously I'm not an original member, and people are just telling me how much it really means to them. And it's a great feeling. So, yeah, pros and cons. It's such a gray area. I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think the internet is a pretty big pro. I know I know a lot of people think it's a con, but I guess it's a great way to have your art now kind of like just front and center, like immediate access to it, and anybody can get a hold of it. But I know like on the other end is like earning a living, it makes it much harder. So yeah.
I actually, if I can just pipe in real quick, I think Shane said it really well that the gatekeepers have changed. That's a really good way of saying it, because back in the day with the labels, as mentioned, the structure kind of kept it sort of funneled the talent to the audience. Now, because of the way it is, it's just wide open. And the pro is that everybody has a shot. The con is that everybody has a shot. So you get kind of lost in the sea of talent, and there's a great deal of it out there. But honestly, I think when we're talking pros and cons, what we're really talking about is because we want to make a living from this too. We like to make a living from it as best we can, and it's very, very difficult now. And yeah, traveling T-shirt salesman is a pretty accurate description. I think you do make your money touring. But again, it's probably closer to the source now in a way than it's ever been. The interaction between the fans and the bands is so close because of social media. Even this, like what we're doing right now, like just the level of connectivity between the audience and the artist has really changed. And it's very rewarding. It's really, again, what we don't get in money, we get in love. We get in connection with people. You started the conversation, Dave, reminiscing about a show that we played that you saw us at 30 years ago. Dude, man, that kind of stuff happens all the time. So we're part of the fabric of a lot of people's lives, and that makes them a part of ours. And when we play a show, I really feel like we make a connection with our base. People come out to see Toxik shows; they're fans of Toxik. We don't have people wandering in off the street. These people are there because they know the stuff. They're singing the songs. So the pro is we're closer to the fans than we've ever been as a band. The con for us is the same thing, because we're so close, because it's so much more intimate and less monetized. We're just not able to feed our families from it, and we have to scramble in other ways to make ends meet. But it's worth it, because if you love the music, you make the sacrifice, man. So it's pretty positive, I think, on the whole, I would say.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about club promoters that do pay to play shows?
Well, people have been selling tickets for their shows for years and years. I don't know. Anybody else have a feeling on it? It's just part of the game at this point. Luckily for us, we don't really ever have to do that, so we're not subject to it. Maybe that's why it doesn't bother me. If I had to do it more, it might piss me off more, but
Yeah, I definitely paid my dues with that shit, and it's not fun, but I don't know. I mean, if I want to be really diplomatic about it, like everyone's gotta make their own way, and I'm sure there's some promoters who are on the hook to do whatever. I don't know, man. Like it's tough. It sucks to have to do that. Just like an extra. Like as a musician, part of the democratization of like what we do is that like we have more control over our image and our marketing and our recording and everything. It's just any extra steps. I don't know. I feel like band that comes up kind of and probably more, but I don't know.
I kind of agree with you, Shane.
Yeah.
I personally don't like that aspect of it, but certain shows, I guess, you want to like pick and choose, but I don't personally like that.
Yeah, of course. How about you, Dave? Do you have a thought on that?
Me personally, I don't like pay to play promoters. Yeah.
I agree.
That's why you guys
Yeah,
are
I mean,
you guys are playing for Randy Kessler. He never does play shows.
right. That's good to know, for sure.
That's awesome. Good for him.
Eddie.
Yeah, we played with Randy at the NYDM's summer thing last year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So now you guys have any funnier and embarrassing stories about being in this band?
There's lots of stories. There's lots. Hey, can I just jump back real quick? I just want to touch on a couple things that we said a little bit earlier, if I could, just real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, yeah. Well, Shane said earlier on about not being an original member. You mentioned that, Shane, and I just want to kind of address that real quick. As an original member, as the original member at this point in the band, I got to say that this particular unit that is Toxik now is honestly, and I'm not just saying this because we're doing this right now, it's the truth. I think this is the best Toxik's ever been. I think this is the best Toxik. So from a fan standpoint, if you come out and see us now, you're getting as good a show as anything we've ever done. In terms of audio, especially in terms of the music, I feel like we're really hitting it now, and we're giving people their money's worth. So I'm very, very happy with this lineup. Shane said earlier on that I don't mean to keep jumping back on this, but you said earlier on that you stayed in your room for 6 months. Well, you know what? To get World Circus down, when I showed up for that first practice, I didn't have my shit together, and Jim and Shane were killing it, and I felt like such a troll. I was like, man, I don't even know my own music, and these fucking guys are wailing. It made me so, I went home and worked so hard for the next 2 weeks that when I came back, I had it, and so it was a kick in the ass with these guys. And Ronnie coming in last year and a half ago now, coming up on almost 2 years. It's amazing how fast time goes. But Ronnie coming in, it's a kick in the pants. You get a guy who comes in, he's a little bit younger than me, especially. I'm the old guy in the band at this point. But some of the other guys aren't as young as Ron, and having him come in and being like Mr. 15 instruments and killer vocalist himself with, a track record in composing and being a heavyweight. I mean, there's no lightweights in this band. Everybody pulls their weight. We're all good players. We're all good people. It's a great chemistry. So I just wanted to say that, again, I feel really lucky to have this particular unit out playing these songs. And for the fans, for people who come to see us, you're getting your money's worth. Like I said just a minute ago, you really are. I really feel like we now bring it as good as we ever did. There were times in the original formation of Toxik where we were not as good as we are now. On the Think This tour, especially when we were starting to come apart a little bit because we were starting to get on each other's nerves. It had been a few years, and the label wasn't really taking care of us, and the road was wearing on us, and typical shit. And Nirvana was around the corner, and the scene was changing, and we were really victims of that whole thing. For lack of a better term, victims. Get it? It's on our first record, and we were, we kind of succumbed to that. And so people who saw us on the last Think This run, I don't think they got the best version of Toxic. I mean, I'm sure that the shows were fun, and every show is a good show. It's, shows are like sex. They're all good, some are better, right? But, now I really feel like it's a kick in the ass. We show up, we rock, and it's a lot of fun, and I feel like it conveys. And I'm very happy to have these guys because they're all really hardworking, very serious people about the band. And that's it, man. I just want to say that.
So what you're saying is you don't want to give the fans a half-ass show.
No, I don't. And now, at this point in my life, it matters a lot more to me. I don't think I really had it conceptually back in the day what it was about. I don't think I fully understood, what does a rock and roll band really mean? What does a metal band do? What are we about? It's a little bit of a self-indulgent thing when you're a musician. Let's be honest. You can kind of get carried away with your own shit. And that's really not what it's about. It's about getting together with your friends and playing the music that people want to hear. And we do it now. We bring it the way it's supposed to be, and our shows have just been consistently now. Since Canada last year, every show has been on point. They're not all perfect. We have our moments. It's live, man. That's what makes it live. But as far as just having the energy and being in there and just bringing it, it's amazing. It's really, I think anyway, being on stage with these guys is amazing. It's just a wreck. So I'm sure that is coming across to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, to speak to Josh's point, and he's singing our praises, and I know me, Ron, and Jim really seriously feel fortunate to be in a band with someone like Josh, who's, a walking guitar god hero, when I locked, I said I locked myself in the room for 6 months, like Josh had referenced. It's true, man, because I was not able to play Toxic songs when I got the call to be like, yo, man, you want to try out for Toxic? I was like, of course I want in on this on these shows and this awesome experience. But what Josh is saying now, the unit we have, I really feel like whenever we step out on stage, I think every single one of us feel like it's a massive event.
Yep.
We know we feel the fans are just. I've had so many people come up to me personally who just, have broke down crying about how influenced they are by these albums, and it's I really feel like an obligation to the fans to give them the best fucking possible show I can,
Yeah. See what I mean, Dave?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying, brother?
It really is
what I
that
mean?
way, man.
Yep.
Josh is,
These guys rock.
We're not
We're killing.
blowing smoke, man. This is for real.
A lot of love in Toxic these days.
For sure.
Yeah, totally agree with Shane, actually.
Yeah, you got to be like a family.
Yeah, Ron. Let me just say that Ron, as the last addition to this, these shows, every one we've played with Ron has just been next level. I can't even say, Toxic was already next level, but this is it's
the band.
It's a good unit, man.
Playing well together, and Ronnie really is fronting the band well.
Yeah.
I call it 3 Baldies and a mop. So, but yeah, man, it really has a lot of youthful energy now with Ron at the front of it. So it's really, it's rewarding on our parts, I guess, for me, Josh and Shane, you work hard, you want to play together well as a band, and now that you have, a racehorse out in front of you, you're like, all right, let's go. So, listen, Toxic has had a rough comeback, for me, I feel like they have 2 seminal albums, as mentioned as any other band from the 80s and late 80s, and especially the second wave, and they don't get the respect that they deserve, and I'm there, with Shane, to make sure that people regret that they think that.
Yeah, very, very highly underrated band you get, Toxic, man.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Thanks, man.
That's right. You know what? Listen, being the underdog is cool sometimes because people know you're good. And when they come out to see you, it's kind of like a little, you want to have the numbers, but when you have that niche following that knows you're badass and they come out with you, it's kind of cool in a way to be that band too. It ain't all bad, honestly.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you guys got a good brotherhood going on now, man. You have to have a good family unit.
You really do, man.
Yes.
The chemistry is very important, dude. And like Josh said, everybody here, we all kind of have the same thought process. We're all kind of into the band. When we step into the rehearsal room, even if we feel a little under-rehearsed, life gets in the way. So, you know what I mean? And but when we step into a rehearsal room together, we know it's pretty good. And we all right, we can play a show. And then the show's always a little bit next level from the rehearsal, which is really always a good thing. So, kind of we're used to playing with each other. We're used to playing these songs, and now this stuff is coming out that's bringing the band to a different level. Absolutely. Yet again, yeah. To think this stuff is listen, you can listen to that record, and the production isn't on the heavier side. But these songs now, oh my God,
like some of the most impressive technical metal songs in my personal opinion of any band ever. Like, I think this is, it really is a landmark album for sure.
And it doesn't, Dave, it doesn't sound, like Jim just said, the production on Think This is a little dated, and it wasn't as heavy. Morris Sound is an awesome studio. We were very lucky to record. Our first 2 records were both recorded at Morris Sound, Death and Nasty Savage and just all kinds of people. Everybody recorded at Morris Sound back in the day. We were at the front end of that. We were sort of before that all kind of kicked really off, and the production on both records, honestly, is a little watery, a lot of reverb, a lot of, it's more Queensryche than it is Overkill. How's that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these songs now played in the raw, played in out in the rough, out, on stage with modern gear, up to tempo, not so wet and compressed and processed, is very raw, and it actually conveys. It doesn't sound old. That's the one thing I hear over and over from people. They're like, dude, these songs are current. They still sound current. With this lineup especially, it's heavier. It's like heavier and drier and tighter. And I kind of, I feel like there's a new life in the older material because of that. Like, it doesn't feel like we're getting out there and slugging out the same old songs night after night. They're still really good to play. They're still really fun. Like Shane said, they're challenging. They keep your interest as a player. But, you get out there and it's tight. And when we're on point, which we are, it's so like the unity of it. It's a lot of fun to play. But I think it's aged well. I feel like it's traveled well. Like, it's, it hasn't gotten to the point where you're like, oh man, it's not an oldies yet. We're still pumping it out there. And we play with a lot of younger bands. We play with most of the bills that we play on. We're playing with people that are half my age anyway. And, they're all out there excited as hell to play, bringing that young guy thing, And again, like Jim's point, we've got Ron up front, who is young, who's on that side of the age thing, which really does help us push up and over. But I just feel like, I don't know, man. I don't even know if it's an age thing, because I'm not really all that aware of Ronnie's age, honestly. No offense, Ron. I don't really, I very rarely think of, wow, this dude's, this guy's half my age. I never
So what Ronnie is he's an ambassador. He's a nice guy. So, people come up to him and talk to him. He's totally approachable. And he'll sit there and talk to you. I mean, he lent one of the opening bands his guitar when we first played in L.A., and it was the nicest gesture, you know what I mean? And it really went over with the fans, and that's really that's a good thing overall for the band, other than the performance,
Yeah. Ronnie's a sweetheart of a guy, which is good from a frontman perspective, because a lot of times frontmen have a bad reputation for being kind of diva-ish. Not this dude.
Thanks, guys.
Sure.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, Dave, Ronnie is such a nice guy. He comes to practice and calls Josh Mr. Christian.
Stop. You gotta stop, man. I can't do it.
Just respect you too much, Josh. That's all.
You gotta stop, man.
You come sit next to me at practice, Ron.
Okay, Jim.
Our singer sings from behind the kit with the drummer. It's very unusual. They're close.
Yeah, we don't have a PA, so Ronnie just fucking stands behind me and screams in my ear. That's how the rehearsal goes.
Jim's the only one that's knowing what's going on with the vocals. He has to record at the end. We're all like, how was Ron? Jim's like, he was killer.
But Dave, I allow Ron to call me Mr. Jim.
Jim, he's so good to Ron, man. So nice of him to do that.
I haven't done that yet, but I might start actually calling you that.
Mr. Jim.
Oh, God.
You're going to call Shane Professor Bulos because of all the shit he's done.
Oh, man.
So how often do you guys get together and rehearse?
Pretty much every week.
Once a week, yeah.
Once a week. Everybody does their homework at home, and then we come in and we put it together. So it's pretty